Welcome everyone. Today we are having Professor Krishna Agarwal. She had been a long-term researcher and last few years she had been also doing some innovation activity, groundbreaking innovation activity. And today we are going to hear her that how did a researcher to innovation journey and what was her motivation, switch and opportunity and solution. So let's welcome Professor Krishna Agarwal for this insightful journey.
Thank you, Professor Prasad. I am very happy to share my journey with you. I am Krishna Agarwal. I am a professor at UIT, the Arctic University of Norway, in the Department of Physics and Technology. Um, I would like to share my journey as a researcher who went from research to innovation. Only partially. I am a very active researcher, and that is my primary focus. But I also dabble a lot in innovation, as you will see. I lead 3D nanoscopy group at UIT, and this group mainly works on microscopy and specifically computational microscopy. We are heavily multidisciplinary, and we are beginning to indulge ourselves in bio applications to a much larger extent than before. Our group is approximately 12 people at any time. The main organization or the main content of our group is researchers, PhDs, and postdocs. But now we also have some engineers in our group, and I will explain the reason why. In my group, we are in the process of commercializing 7 different innovations. The first innovation that we are trying to commercialize is musical, which is a computational microscopy algorithm. We are also trying to commercialize something called Simopleave, which is a biomaterial innovation, and Margel, which is also a biomaterial innovation. And we have another innovation called computational adaptive optics. Again, a computational microscopy algorithm, which we are trying to commercialize. And we have a medtech device called Spermotile, which we are in the process of developing, and a medtech consumable called Active Filter, which we are commercializing. And the seventh one is this particular innovation called FIRST. It is an optical material innovation. But this innovation portfolio that you are looking for was absent a few years ago. I was a mainstream researcher with no connection to innovation. In fact, I was averse to innovation. So, what changed and what is my motivation for innovation? It is considered it is considered very commonly that people who or researchers who enter into innovation, they enter it for money. But this is, to be honest, a myth. And you might know that among the thousands of the drugs that are being considered for commercialization, only one in the end gets commercialized. So, in a sense, the success of commercialization overall is very low, which means that monetizing your innovation is a rare phenomenon. And even when it is monetized, the core inventors who started the journey actually get peanuts. So the motivation to go into innovation is not money. But I have heard a lot from my entrepreneurship friends that innovation and entrepreneurship is an itch. You have to address it. You have to do something about an itch. To be honest, as a researcher, I have enough research itch in myself. And I don't think that for the it itself, I would create scope for innovation. So, no, it's not the itch which is my motivation. My motivation is actually scientific social responsibility. And this looks like a fuzzy word, a big word, a sensational word at present. But in the next slide, when I present my perspective, you will understand why this is a motivation for me. So, entering innovation, taking up entrepreneurship requires a switch for researchers. It's a mindset button that we have to toggle. And To be honest, I had a very early opportunity to switch this mindset button. I had developed Musical, a computational microscopy algorithm which takes a dirty microscopy video and converts into beautiful looking, meaningful biological images. And I was contacted by one of the leading microscopy companies in the world because a customer asked them if they have a microscope with Musical. And it was a customer in Argentina, far removed from Norway, where I conduct my research. And the company contacted me that we want to learn more about Musical. When I presented my Musical presentation and I came to this result, the reaction of the company representative was, holy shit, he was mesmerized. And that resulted into a switch at our TTO. Here we have Martin. His full name is Martin Schätzmo, and he was representing musical innovation as a TTO representative. And he knew immediately that musical is worth commercializing. This was in 2019. And since then, Martin had been chasing me that Krishna, we need to commercialize it. But that switch had not happened for me. My switch happened in 2021. I had gotten this FET Open RIA project from EU. And as a consequence of that, I also got a pay raise. And I was very excited about the pay raise. So, probably the first time in Norway, I opened my pay slip to look at my salary. In this pay slip, in addition to your salary, there is this monthly tax that you are paying and the tax that you have paid so far in this year. The second number blew my mind. When I looked at that number, it was so large that my immediate response was, seems like I am funding my own research. My taxes are going into the research funds that I'm receiving. And then I started thinking that if I were to give my hard earned money to a scientist, what would I want from that scientist? And my answer was that I don't want a fancy paper in a top journal. I want something that creates value for me. It is my hard earned money. I want it to work for me. When I give it to a scientist, I want that scientist to do something meaningful for my society when I give that money. And that was my switch. Also, at that time, I had a realization that as a researcher, I had done a lot to try to make musical usable in the community. I had released an open source code of musical in MATLAB and then in ImageJ, and I was upgrading features all the time. I was making dissemination videos. I was reaching out people through emails, and still the switch for the researchers was not happening to adopt musical. The life scientists were not using musical. And it was a time when I realized that sometimes a good tool, when it comes with a price tag, makes it more trustable. I realized that the fact that someone is paying for a tool makes them understand or feel that they have a guarantee of performance. And therefore, if musical is given as open source, probably people have less adopters. But if it is given with a price tag, people will use it more easily. So, with these two things, I think I was ready to start the journey of innovation. I knew that taxpayers' money was funding into my research, creating new knowledge, but that knowledge had to reach the taxpayers back. But having that mindset switch is the necessary condition. It is not sufficient. There were many challenges that I was dealing with. The first challenge is the challenge of publication. As scientists, we believe in open science, we believe in sharing information, we believe in discussing our results, showing off our results. But innovation requires us to keep some confidentiality, maintain some trade secrets, have an intellectual asset management, and so on. And this is a very different way of working than how a regular scientist would work. So it was a little bit challenging to overcome that hurdle of not being able to discuss your results, not being able to talk about your science to the extent that you wanted to. The second challenge that I was facing was a challenge about responsibility towards my research members, my team members. My team members primarily composed of PhDs and postdocs, and their main work description, job description, their main target is to do research. They are to publish scientific research articles which would make their research CV strong enough to look for the next research position. But the innovation journey asks you to not do research, but to do development, to publish with a low profile or have a lower publication outcome because you are trying to protect the intellectual property. Also, when you are going through a commercialization journey, you would like the core technological members which are behind this innovation to work on this innovation for long. So there, the idea is to try and retain the talent rather than train a researcher and give the researcher to the world, open the researcher to the world. The third challenge was the language. We are used to scientific language, scientific tools, scientific investigation, scientific studies, scientific arguments. Whereas innovation requires business language, it requires legal language. And it seems like a big barrier to go from your scientific language to legal language to business language and so on. And that felt pretty intimidating. But the primary challenge was I myself. As a researcher, we are usually skeptic about our own research, about our own results, about the tools that we are making. We are trained to be critical. We are trained to question. We are trained to find faults and improve on them. And as a result, we become very bad judge of the results that we are creating. We are often dealing with imposter syndrome. And what this means is I would have created a great technology and it would be working in some special conditions very well. But I would say this is not good enough because it's not working on some other set of conditions. We tend to ignore the fact that it is working very well on a particular condition. And this is the primary challenge that we had to overcome. But I think that I was able to also see a lot of opportunities. The first opportunity was for my research staff, my PhD and postdocs. After graduating, Sebastian, my PhD student, he joined a startup. And that is not a research position. That is a position of product development. And he was able to do it because he was exposed to musical. Also, my PhD student and later postdoc Ida, she joined Syntef and she is taking the research results into industry by working on development projects. So there was an opportunity to create non-academic positions or to allow my research staff to consider non-academic unconventional roles for researchers. The other opportunity is that our university started something called UIT Talent. And this UIT Talent is a small funding portfolio. It funds sometimes as little as 3,000 euros. But this 3,000 euros incentivize young innovators to try something beyond what their original project allows. And there are also bigger funds in this portfolio which allow up to 2 years of position of an innovator. So the opportunities were also being created locally. And Research Council of Norway, in Norway it's called Forskningsrådet, it has at least two calls which are specifically about taking publicly funded research into commercial solutions. And I would like to say that we are very, very successful in the first one. This is a small amount of fund, but it allows us to prepare a good patent application to do some initial TRL1, TRL2 proof of concept or proof of principle investigations. And therefore, it allows us to pass the first barrier into commercialization. Of course, we can write for a larger project, which can go up to 3 years, and then it can fund a lot more development. But then we also have European opportunities like EIC Pathfinder, EIC Transition, and so on. And we have an excellent technology transfer office called Norinova. I specifically work with Ingrid, Lars, and Bronwyn for my innovation projects, and I work very intensively with Lars. And these are team of young business developers, very enthusiastic about your research, probably more enthusiastic about your research than you are. And I have had meetings with Lars at midnight, very early morning, irrespective of time zones, because they are so invested in taking our research to public. So a good TTO makes a very big difference. So I saw challenges, I saw opportunities, but I had to find solutions to my challenges in order to do something meaningful. I can share with you my solutions, the solutions that I found. The first solution about this open science versus hush hush innovation is that we apply for patent early and then we can publish. And of course, this requires a little bit delay in the publication pipeline. But I also started thinking of an alternate way of publishing, where our publications focus less on the methods, more on the applications that these methods facilitate. Then the other thing that I learned is that now there are data descriptor manuscripts or dataset articles published in mainstream journals. And this means that we are creating valuable data for other researchers to work on without necessarily revealing our innovations. And this means that the research work or research profile of a researcher can go on while creating value to a larger community through open science anyway. For the second challenge, in order to de risk the researchers, I started hiring engineers. Hiring engineers in an academic setup is a little bit challenging, and you have to try and get appropriate funding so that you can hire engineers, but it is possible. Also, for the researchers, I tried to find ways to not compromise their publication journey, and instead of publishing methods very early on, we first publish applications, and after the patent applications, we try to publish the methods. I also develop career development plans for my students. In fact, they do, and I just be there to provide advice, consultations, and so on. And when they are making their career development plan, I do discuss if they want to be in mainstream research, if they want to be academicians, if they want to be innovators, and so on. And depending on their inclination, we try to find tools and mechanisms to foster their dreams. I also believe that training staff, including ourselves, in innovation is very helpful. I have sent 4 of my teams for the mini MBA program of Digital Life Norway in 2024, and I am hoping to send 1 or 2 students to this academic entrepreneurship program run by UIT next semester. I have also been participating in these training programs for innovation so that I can facilitate my innovations better, my team better, and I can make good decisions for innovations. I believe that one of the important ways I have solved this researcher conundrum is that instead of thinking of researchers as only doing research, I now provide them a lot of options, including innovation, so that they can make their own informed decisions. They understand the variety of opportunities, they investigate what suits them, and they make their decisions, which means that I don't have to lead every innovation myself. They take ownership of their innovations and they lead them. For most of the innovations, I can be there for them as an advisor and a facilitator, but they decide what they do with it. The language barrier is actually an intimidating one. And as a researcher, we need to approach it with acceptance that it's a different language. We are not an expert at it. And we need to have openness to learn ourselves, to upskill ourselves. The easiest way to do this is through education. There are a variety of half a day programs or 1 day programs to teach you on different aspects of innovation or business or IP, intellectual property, or conflicts of interest, and so on, which we can attend without investing a significant time, and we can start upskilling ourselves bit by bit so that it's not intimidating. Also, it is important to know that we don't need to do everything ourselves. We can delegate business development to experts, such as those present in technology transfer offices. We can delegate the legal work of patent drafting, etc., to patent attorneys. We don't need to do them or do these things ourselves. We delegate to the experts what they do the best, and we concentrate on what we do the best. Also, innovation is a lot about learning by doing. We learn on the go. This means that we do not have to have a degree, a diploma, a certification before we can start innovating. We can start from wherever we are and we can learn while we are doing things. Also, we can learn a lot from mistakes, from our mistakes, from others' mistakes. In innovation, in commercialization, and in entrepreneurship, people talk a lot to each other so that they can learn from each other's mistakes and avoid some of them. And this is also the solution to the researcher's skeptic mindset. I found that it is very important to talk to people outside academia, to people who are potential users of your technologies, of your innovations. And I also learned that it is very important to talk to them early. When your research is still emerging, it's still finding its foot. If we know how this research can be contextualized to the society, we would make some different decisions. And this means not reducing the impact of our research, in fact, making it more impactful from the early stage on. Also, it is important to talk to people throughout the entire process so that you know you are making something that they need, not your imagination of that. And I believe this is extremely important because as a researcher, we have a tendency to cocoon ourselves. We think that we need to develop the best technology that is available, that can be possible. Whereas a person in normal society wants a solution that works for their problem. They do not need a solution that you can create to your best possible capability. And if we can solve their problem through a part of what we are doing, that is good enough for them. We do not have to judge ourselves on the standards of optimal research when it comes to innovation. So, after finding my solutions, I think that I have enabled myself and my team for innovation. I learned that in innovation, commercialization, entrepreneurship, you don't have to do it alone. You don't have to do everything yourself. And you don't have to take every innovation till the end. You can delegate or you can transition these innovations to your postdocs, to your PhD students, to technology transfer offices, to spin offs, to companies. This means that the entrepreneurship or innovation journey is not as intimidating as it feels to researchers when they first start thinking about it. We know we can make a real difference. And I hope we will decide at least once to consider making that difference through taking it to the society. Well, that is my thoughts, my journey so far, Dilip.
That's wonderful, Krishna, that what you have switched from the academic to an innovator and how you are training your team. That's wonderful, Krishna, that how you explain your researcher to innovator journey and how you are able to find the opportunities and overcome the challenges. So we have a certain question then which can help our audience. So the first question is that you mentioned that you found opportunities to train yourself in innovation. So would you like to explain what are the activities you have done?
So I used a variety of tools available in my environment. The initial tools were that I was a part of this Aurora Outstanding program conducted by my university to train young researchers who are planning funding applications on different aspects of innovation. So, as a part of it, there was an intellectual properties workshop, half a day workshop, and there was also this workshop about why innovation creates value, what is difference between innovation and research. So these workshops were happening at different times, and I attended some of them. These were helpful as a first primer, but they didn't give me a very solid feel of what all it entails. So this year, actually last year in October, we embarked on a REACH program. This REACH program is conducted by Nordic Innovation House, and it has branches across the world. There is a Silicon Valley branch, and it conducts this REACH program as a part of training academicians and researchers in entrepreneurship. So, with my innovation spermotile, I went there with my team. And during this process, we got sort of a crash course in entrepreneurship. It was first 6 months of weekly lectures and meetings and discussions, and after that, it was 2 weeks of intensive work where we all went to Silicon Valley and we all got trained to discuss different things, to develop different aspects, such as everything from making a business pitch, talking about your ideas, understanding the customer, making a sales plan, everything in between. And that provided me with a lot of insight into what goes into just after submitting your invention disclosure, what all goes before it becomes commercially successful. So that was a very good program for me to upskill myself. Also now for spermotile again, we are going through this EIC Pioneer program, which is organized by European Innovation Council. And it has similar nature as the REACH program, but it is more catered towards Europe. So it also gives me a perspective of what are the nuances of taking innovations to commercial stages in the US versus Europe. So yeah, this was my journey. Yeah.
So that's great. You are training yourself and also you leading by example to your team that yes, you need to train yourself. Uh, the one thing you also mentioned that you have seven innovation and you said you enabled your team and now some of the innovation your team is leading, not you. So would you like to highlight what are the innovation you are leading and why?
Mm. Um, I am primarily leading the musical innovation and the spermotile innovation. All the other innovations are being led by the team members who came up with the idea, and then we developed intellectually the idea into actually a functional research. But then after that, the team members took over. Musical was a technology with whose primary intellectual property came from me, and I understand the nuances of musical with much better depth than most other team members. Having said that, Sebastian, the PhD student that I showed to you in my slide, has worked for 4 years in musical. He has worked for musical, spending more number of work hours than me now. But he didn't see himself as an entrepreneur. He wanted to transition into industry job, a startup job. So it's within the innovation and that portfolio, but he didn't want the challenge of leading from the front on this particular one. So that is the reason for musical. Spermotile is a medtech device and it has many components. It's based on three technologies and it has many components, all of which need to come together. A medtech device requires extensive hardware product development experience. I lead a team of researchers which at present do not have that experience. But before coming into research, I was working in a radar development company. And there I have had the experience of making the full product and delivering it to to a manufacturer. So I have been through this pipeline. This is a unique experience in my team, which Spermotile benefits from. All the other innovations do not have that challenge of making a functional product based on different technologies. And I think that my team is very well equipped in leading these from front.
That's great that you are continuing your passion and you understand which of the product can benefit from your involvement and which others can lead. So I have a couple of questions. So the one question is that since you are an academic professor, you do researcher, you have a 12-member team, you are involved with seven innovation, two you are leading, going for training. The question is that how do you find time to do so many activities?
That's a very good question. To be honest, it is often time against me and me against time. But having said that, the first thing is I don't need to do everything myself. I believe in empowering my team members. I believe in making them independent and confident enough to steer themselves. So I work a lot in enabling my team in hard research skills and soft research skills. And I have seen that through a little bit of investment on that side, researchers do become independent. They do become self navigating. And this helps a lot. At the same time, uh, although I'm training myself on innovation and on other things, I do trust that the business developers I work with, the legal experts I work with, are doing a very good job. So we have to place a little bit trust in the expertise of the people we are working with, and we don't need to become them. We need to learn enough to be able to communicate them productively and positively. So that is what I focus on. And I think that if we want to do something more than our very basic responsibilities, it does require some extra effort, it does require some extra time. But I find that if I can find something meaningful, something enjoyable, something I'm looking forward to, it becomes easier for me to bring out that time, to put that time without feeling pressured about creating this extra time. So it's about making my daily activities of research and innovation and supervision very enjoyable, very meaningful, and that helps me a lot.
You explained a very good way of time management in this busy world where you can pursue your passion and do multiple activities and also inspire many students. So let's move to the next question. You mentioned in your talk that a switch, the innovator switch, uh, means the world needs more innovator because the innovator creates job and value. So, can you suggest a mechanism how normal people can find their switch?
I think I can again share only my experience. I think I was a 11 years old child when I got the switch to become a scientist. And then I am now 43 years old. Probably I got the switch to innovator when I was 40 years old. What I think is that there are as many switches as there are people in the world. What clicks for one may not click for someone else. But what helps in finding our switch is to be a little bit self aware and to not dismiss things in the first go, to give them a little bit of consideration before letting them go. And I think that with just a little bit openness, it is likely that your switch may find you instead of you finding your switch. But having said that, Dilip, you are a serial entrepreneur. What was your switch?
You said wonderful that everyone needs to find their switch, and there are enough opportunity to find their switch and at least think once in their life that are does entrepreneurship pathway they would like to go at least for a week. And in order to do that, get some training, get some workshop that what is the pathway, like you did, half a day workshop organized by various university these days and also online, and find out that those are the activity would like to enjoy or would you like to pursue. So you said quite well that there are enough people and so there are many more switches. Everyone's switch is different and they have to find in their own journey. So let's move to the next question. Uh, the next question is that does you do a lot of research, you have a lot of project. I can see uh, close to more than 15 projects you are running from Norway and EU and other countries, and large set of things, and you are doing quite many publication activities. Now the question is that, so as a researcher, if you are a PhD, master or bachelor student, and we are typically working on one or two topic, does our every research should we pursue for innovation? Means how do you decide?
It's a it's a it's a deep question, to be honest. But I think that the way I think about it is this, that first of all, not every research needs to be commercialized. Not every research can be commercialized. So one is need to, the other one is can be. And what I try to find is that whether something can be commercialized. That is my first approach. If it can be commercialized, I know that the commercialization journey is quite long. And on an average, one person's 100% time may be needed for several years. Is this amount of time and effort commensurate with the impact such research will create after getting commercialized? This is my second threshold. The third threshold is that can I find the right persons or the right team members to pursue this journey, to go along the challenges that we encounter? And for each innovation, there are these different set of people which are right for them. If it seems likely that I can find them, I can engage them, then with these three criteria, I think that this may be worth taking. But at the same time, I think that even if something is commercializable, some things benefit from being more valuable in open science than in commercialization. For example, if you are creating a new research field, then of course you can create a product out of this new research field and commercialize it, but probably this research field needs to mature. This research field can create opportunities for a lot of researchers in the world. So those kind of researches I think will benefit from open science rather than commercialization. So this is also another thing that I consider.
Wonderful. You mentioned correctly that we need to think about the social impact, economical impact, and impact on you and your surrounding. But last point you mentioned that uh, the new research field means do you want to make it a product? Some people do it, but then some people don't. And we see an example of this year Nobel Prize in Physics, and where Geoffrey Hinton team had implemented the deep learning on a GPU, and that enabled the AI revolution. And then the Microsoft, now Google, DeepMind, has created this alpha folding where from the protein sequence, a protein structure can be generated, and they could have monetized it, but the world got more benefited when they make it open and they are supporting it. So that is a good balance. Now, I would like to close this conversation. I have a last question. Means we need entrepreneur in the world. Now, the question is that does entrepreneurship everyone should do? Does everyone should become a job creator or a value creator or make a company to be precise?
So I think I will start with a partial answer that you gave already. Everyone should consider in their lifetime once at least whether this is for them. But at the same time, I think that not everyone needs to be an entrepreneur. I think that what one wants to be, what one should become, probably is guided by three things. The first thing is whether you enjoy doing something or enjoy having some roles. The second thing is whether you are good at these roles. And the third thing is if you are good at it, if you enjoy it, do you think it can create value somewhere? It may be value in your bank balance, it may be value to society, it may be value to our future generations. Whatever it is, if we satisfy these three criteria, what we are good at, what we enjoy doing, and where we can create value, I think personally for me, these determine what roles are suitable. And entrepreneurship is a very, very exciting journey, but it is also riddled with a lot of risks, a lot of ups and downs, a lot of uncertainties, and so on. And there are people who can, of course, overcome all of them or take them in stride and still keep on creating, keep on motivating, keep on pushing their boundaries and, by example, others' boundaries. Um, I think this is the mandatory spice or the mandatory content of an entrepreneur, but a lot more is needed. So, to each their own, but I think it's worthwhile to consider entrepreneurship at least once in life. Yeah.
That's wonderful answer, and it was great talking to you and listen to you how your research journey transforming to innovation and how the other team members in your team transforming toward the innovation as per their choice and informed decision. I really like that they are doing the informed decision rather than they are being asked that yeah do it. So we will come back again, and it was wonderful talking to you. Thank you. Have a good day.
I
Bye
also
bye.
really enjoyed talking to you on these aspects. Thanks a lot.